Welcome to the podcast, Stacey.
Hi, Alicia. How are you going?
I'm so pumped to have you on. This is going to be a really cool interview. I know you have such amazing skills and such great life experience to be able to share with the people listening. So, Stacey, you are in a unique position that you live kind of remote in sort of Queensland. Tell us, first of all, what's it like to be a practitioner in a remote area?
Yeah, so just recently we moved to the Capricorn Coast, which isn't anywhere near as rural as what I was living. We were living in Emerald, Central Queensland, which is about 400 kilometres west of Rockhampton, which is also a small city in Central Queensland that no one really knows where it is. We're always isolated out here. Many massage therapists work in isolated conditions anyway, but for us out here, we have limited massage therapists that are here to start with, and less people that we can talk to and rely upon. There's no colleges or lecturers that we can find to just call up and refresh our brains, I suppose. Yeah.
So how did that kind of hamper or I guess frame what it is that you want to bring to the industry, having that experience of being so rural?
Yeah, well, I guess when we first moved to Emerald, I didn't expect to be faced with the circumstances that we're faced with. I knew that it would be difficult to get a massage job in Emerald because it wasn't as forthcoming as what it was in Brisbane when I was studying. And in Emerald, there was one or two main clinics that already had some staff working for them. Most people worked on their own. And initially when we went there, I wasn't seen as a valued member, but more of a competitor. So it was really difficult to sort of meet people and network and come to an understanding that we can help each other out. So initially I ended up in a job that I didn't have to interview for, because I went into the interview and the woman that was standing in front of me, I actually went to college with in Brisbane. It just so happened that she was actually from Comet, which is a smaller town in Central Queensland, and started up her own clinic in Emerald with her husband. So that worked out really well. And just from there, I just started getting to know people and realizing that in rural areas, the scope of practice is a little bit different, where people aren't really understanding how much remedial massage can help for chronic injuries or workplace health and safety issues, or like actual rehabilitation rather than just it being a massage. So coming from Brisbane and trying to set up a clinic where we do clinical assessments and range of motion, got people offside initially. So just through education with practitioners and clients, that sort of changed. But it led me on this path to sort of be an advocate, I suppose, for rural massage therapists, because quite often we're forgotten about in the massage industry because we make the least amount of noise, I guess. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, as they say.
Yeah. So what did that actually look like? Networking with other practitioners, what practically did you actually do with that?
Well, funnily enough, I think it was about 2017, I went to a conference with Massage and Myotherapy Australia, as I would every year anyway. But I think it was that conference that I saw you, and I saw you going around the tables and meeting other people. And I didn't actually know who you were at the time then, but I was like, okay, well, maybe that's just something that I could do. So I had a look on the MMA website, and they had a program for regional ambassadors. And I was like, oh, I'd love to do that. So I sent an email and got the ambassador kit, had a read through it. And I was like, this is what I want to do. This is the path I want to go down. It's all volunteer. And it's just getting massage therapists within the industry, within MMA, as well as other associations together. You can do CP events or just have meetings, meet and greets, have a coffee and talk about the industry. So that's what I started to do. And the first meeting, I think I got 3 people, including myself. And I just snowballed after that. But yeah, the first meeting, there was me and 2 other massage therapists who at the time I was working with in a chiropractic clinic. So they already knew me. And it did grow from there, but yeah.
Look, sometimes that's where excellence starts, right? It starts by having the intention, setting up a framework will work, like becoming something like a regional ambassador or something like that. So you've got a reason to connect. It's not just, hey, I want to have coffee with you, which some people strangely find weird. I mean, I'm a coffee drinker, so if someone asked me for coffee, I'd probably say yes, just hot tip. Really love good quality coffee. However, being able to say, hey, it's for, I'm a regional ambassador, part of an association, all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well, there's a thing now. And sometimes that starts really small. I know for us, we ran our first retreat with 5 people at a house, which, it just did not look like the brochure, and there's a cool story that goes with it. However, the intention for us was, we're going to run this event like we're Tony Robbins, like there's 10,000 people here. And we did. And the experience of the people that came was not diminished by the fact that there was only 5 in inverted commas. And obviously they've grown from there. And I think it can be the same whenever we start something small. Sometimes we can go, oh, well, I only had 2 people come and there are people who already know. That's it. I'm not going to keep going with this. I'm just going to stop, and no one will ever know because no one came. So how long did it take? Like, say, give us sort of 6 or 12 months down the track, how many people did you have coming through?
Oh, it probably would have been 12 months down the track, closer to 2018, 2019. We had about 10 then, which is a lot of people for the size of the town. And then after that, I branched out and sort of started networking with people in Rockhampton and Yeppoon, and we ended up having a CPE event at a place in Yeppoon not long after that had about 15 people there. So yeah, it did grow after that.
It's so good. Just to really connect with other therapists, because I know before I got into coaching and before I ran a bigger clinic, it was like, if I talk to people, it wasn't that I thought they were my competition, but there was what if they would perceive me as their competition? Like, that's why I didn't want to reach out. And we're such connected people. Like, we're the most touchy-feely profession on the planet, really. Like, we love to work with people. And when we see therapists come together, when they actually do, they usually have a really great time. But it's making something so that people want to be able to step in that can be the challenge. But once that challenge is overcome, I think it makes a massive difference to, oh, good, so you do this and this and this, good, because I don't do that. And I don't want to see those people. I actually want to refer you on, so that'd be great. Yeah,
absolutely.
So cool.
I had to get over my own ego too, because in the beginning, I always wondered, like, so if I'm hosting this meeting, I have to know everything. Like, I have to know everything. I have to know all musculoskeletal, everything, all business, everything, all legislation, everything. So I was really nervous because I just thought, well, what if someone asks me something I don't know the answer to? And as soon as I realized that it's not my job to answer their questions, they've got their own stuff that they can organize, I can't adult for everyone, it got really, really easy. And I just decided that I don't need to know everything. I don't need to be the genius that I played up in my head that I had to be, because it wasn't other people's expectations. Now, if I get asked something in clinic or asked something by another massage therapist, I'm like, look, I really don't know, but I can have a look for you and we can talk about it in your next session, rather than being like, oh, God. Because I think we're expected to know things, but we're gagged anyway, so we can't really discuss things with our clients. So it's just easier to admit that you don't know everything, and then ego goes after that.
Yeah, it's you make such a beautiful point that we don't have to know everything to take action, to create a space, because people bring their own stuff. I think one of the biggest learnings for James and I over the last, I can't remember how many years we've been doing, but it's 22 retreats we've run, is how much people, like, the less we teach, the more people connect with one another, the greater the level of wisdom that goes out of the room. Like, actually people learn more or just as much from one another as they do from the person at the front of the room or the person hosting. And I think that is actually, when you can put your ego aside and just allow that to happen, beautiful things come out of there, because it's run by your heart then, not by ego. And that often transfers to the people coming, whether it's a regional event, whether it's a retreat, a conference, whatever it is, that will actually transfer to the people going, oh, this is really fun, I really like it, because it kind of gives them permission. When we give ourselves permission to be okay, it gives them permission to be okay too, meaning they don't have to know all the answers to come in the room, which I think is really powerful and important.
That's right.
So 2019, when did you, because you moved to Yeppoon where you are now. Tell us about what it was like to move from one place to another.
So when we moved, it was the end of 2020. There had been so much happen in the previous 12 months that I was actually just completely spent. And initially when we decided we were moving, I had no idea what I was going to do for work. I didn't know if I was going to work for someone else. I really wasn't super keen on starting up again at that time. And then we found our house that we wanted to buy, which just so happened to have a granny flat on a separate block. So it was nowhere near my home anyway. And I thought, okay, well, that's perfect. It would just go to waste if I didn't work from it. So I started up again, and I literally started from scratch. I went from a huge client base to zero and had to learn, thanks to some really great massage champion coaches, how to market myself again. Because I'd spent so long in Emerald that I had been booked out 4 months in advance. I'd stopped taking clients a couple of years prior, new clients a couple of years prior to not having any clients and having to figure out how to get clients in the door, especially because I'm new here. I'm trusted. No one knows who I am. So yeah, and then it only took probably 4 months, and I'm fully booked now regularly. So yeah, it took a bit, but I got there.
It often happens, especially when we're a very established therapist in an area, and we just sort of have that level of certainty and, because I don't have to worry. I'm booked out for 4 months in advance. Happy days, rock on. And often it's only when big changes happen, like COVID can be one of them, and we'll go there next, because obviously a lot happened in 2020 and 2021. So what can happen is when we move to a new place, it's like we literally have to start from scratch, but we're not really, because we're starting from experience. When you've had that experience, from what I know, when you've had the experience of being fully booked with a wait list, you're kind of looking for that as an expectation again, because I've been there, done that, and I'm hungry for more, and I know how to do it. Even if the actual steps need a bit of guidance, help, and support along the way, to actually be able to go, yeah, you know what, we've got this, it's amazing, and now I'm there within 4 months again, is absolutely amazing. And it's important to have the right information as needed in that journey. So tell us a bit about, what was it like when COVID hit? How did you respond to all that was happening? Let's kind of hear about that. Between the move from one town to another, I want to hear your COVID journey.
Well, there's been so much happen. So between 2017 and 2019, I had tried to establish a big clinic in Emerald, couldn't find workers. Same old story as what everyone's having. And then I decided that I wasn't going to renew my lease. Moved in with a podiatrist and just said, look, I'm not intending on being here very long. We want to move. I don't know when we're going to move, but we'll just see how it goes. So I was there when COVID hit, which meant I didn't necessarily have a commercial lease, but I was paying her for my commercial space. And I was subcontracting her receptionist, which meant I didn't have my own employees. So when COVID hit and we were forced to stop work, because back then Queensland massage therapists weren't considered other health workers like we are now. And I just about quit the industry. I was done. I just could not take any more. I was at that stage, I think, so my mum had actually passed away the December before, and this was the March. And I had continued work between when my mum passed away and the funeral. I literally buried my head in work to get through. And then when COVID hit and I was forced to stay home with the kids, I was forced to face my feelings. So everything from the past 5 years had just ended up exploding out of me. And I was pretty well done. And I think my husband was like, I've been listening to a few things of Brené Brown, which I know that you've been into as well, and got me to watch I think it was a TED talk about vulnerability. And I watched that and I was like, you know what? Like, it's okay to feel like this. It's okay to not be okay, which I had never not been before. Because when the chips are down, that's usually when I flourish. I don't know why that is. It's like once I have to stand on my own 2 feet, I usually get up, and that's when I excel the most. This time was different though. I was drinking a lot, if I'm honest, and crying a lot and in bed a lot. So to get through that, I think from that TED talk, and then considering my entire life, because massage is all I've ever done and all I've ever known, to realizing that it's not about the pay, and it's not about the accolades, and it's not about anything else outside of helping people. And I actually genuinely love what I do. That made me decide to continue on, but pivot in a way where I can still help people from either behind a screen if I need to, or help other massage therapists if I can. So from then, I just started flicking out emails to people that don't even know me and applying for things that I probably should never, not should never, I would never have applied for due to my own insecurities before. But at that point, my chips were down. I had hit rock bottom and I had nothing else to lose. So I just started doing stuff, and then a lot came my way. And now I feel like I'm in a good position where I can help massage therapists more.
Well, before we go to what you've done, because I kind of know some of the story a little bit, and it's pretty awesome. I want to kind of expand a little bit about that year of growth, or as Brene Brown called it, her year of breakdown. So whatever you want to coin that for yourself. How did you find, I guess, how do you deal with setbacks? Like, how do you deal with grief and it literally being put in your face? Because, and that's the thing that COVID did. COVID didn't create all this, although I'm sure it did create a lot of challenges and some damage, etc. However, I think what it actually did was rip the Band-Aid off a bunch of our over-functioning to then make us sit and look at it, and none of us really liked what we found. Yeah. So what was that like for you?
In the beginning, I really didn't like myself because nothing happened to me, but like you said, the Band-Aid got ripped off. So I am a very proud person, and ego gets in my way a lot. Ego and self-sabotage equally. So it's really hard when I am trying to help people not to then get on my high horse. And quite a few times during that COVID lockdown, and then coming back out of it, I had to realize that there is no such thing as a high horse, that I'm in the same boat as everyone else, regardless of my experience, my years in the industry. Like, those are the things, years in the industry are things that clients care about, but no one else cares about. And it doesn't really matter, because I'm learning right now that the longer I've been in the industry, the more stagnant I'm getting in regards to treatments for people, which I'm only just coming across with new things that I'm doing. So that stuff doesn't matter, and it doesn't mean anything to other therapists. It doesn't mean anything in your capabilities either. So putting that stuff aside, I really had to learn to be okay with being vulnerable in front of everybody and open. The more I've learned, the more honest you are, especially about your own failings, the more people trust you and the more people respect you, regardless of what your failings are. Yeah.
And we often fear judgment so much more than we actually experience it. Like, it's the fear of the judgment, or as one of my mentors said, it's the shadow that the fear casts that we get scared of. Like, you see a little, two fingers up bunny ears, but you look at the shadow and how big that can be. And it's like, that's why we don't want to be vulnerable and tell people our stuff, because we're so afraid that is what the shadow will cast. When actually what we do by sharing it, and I think Brene talks about this in terms of shame drives, and that's usually what our ego is kind of wrapped up in shame. The reason we don't want to share stuff is because we're embarrassed, or we feel shame around those things and insecurities. And it needs three things: silence, secrecy, and judgment. And so when we share them with people who have earned the right to hear our story, it's like putting a light in the dark. And it's like, that light is empathy, because that's usually what we respond with. People actually respond with empathy, like, wow, thank you for sharing. And, or me too, or I'm so sorry that it happened. Yeah. And it's like, they have this amazing empathetic response, which then wherever the light touches, the darkness can't be. So it's like, it takes a lot of courage to actually share those things. And when we do, we're actually dispelling the myth and the fear and the shame that goes with them. And it makes it easier to go, okay, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy every time, but it makes it easier to do on a more consistent basis when you start, because it's like a compounding effect to go, okay, well, I didn't die when I shared that.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, okay. And then you share the next bit. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't die. And I shared that.
Yeah.
This is cool. And all of a sudden you're like, you know, just this is who I am. If you don't like it, that's cool. I love who I am, and this is how it is. And I think that is, I mean, honestly, what a gift, Stace.
I know. And I think loving yourself comes with age. People always say that, well, whenever I have my birthday, I get really excited about birthdays and I love them. People always like, oh, how do you feel another year older? I'm like, actually, great. Every year I love myself more and more and more. And I think that's a real feminine thing. Women seem to enjoy their own company and like themselves more as years go on. So anyway, it does take time though to get to that stage.
Oh, it's a decision. I think it's a decision to make that choice. And we're also a massive fan of birthdays here. I love the fact that my 14-year-old is like, so who's doing the birthday chair? Like they know that there's a birthday chair. It is their birthday. And it doesn't matter that he is 6 foot now and obnoxious and very stubborn, he still leads his birthday chair, which I think is really nice.
Yeah.
And it's a decision to celebrate that. It's a decision to celebrate ourselves and to decide to actually, you know, I'm going to love what I see in the mirror, wobbly bits and all, warts and all, and just this is who I am, and I'm kind of okay with that. And I think that's what comes with age. And I would love to think that we were bringing our daughters up in a space where they can see that modeled to them from a younger age. So maybe they don't have to get to their 40s or more to start to feel like this. Maybe they could start to feel this earlier in their teens and 20s. That would be incredible as a kind of post Brene Brown generational blessing we get to pass down to our kids. Like good. So I guess when you're in struggle, so before you had your awesome COVID breakthrough, maybe we'll call it that, what do you hold on to when you're in the struggle?
Oh gosh, as in like a guiding light?
Whatever it is, like what sees you through? What is it that you kind of like? Is it a knowing? Is it self-care? Is it like, I just know that I'm going to be okay? Like, what is it that you hold on to through the struggle?
Well, I'd love to have that sort of knowing that I would be okay, but I think honestly, I've never quit anything in my entire life. Nothing. Actually, I quit athletics, but I've always regretted that. So I think my ego just would not let me stop. So when we talk about ego, this is different because it's fueling me to just keep going regardless of anything else. And actually, what do they call it? My sister calls me a chihuahua sometimes. Like, you know, when the chips are down and the chihuahua will run away from a big dog and then turn around and start barking when they're further away. That's usually what I get like, you know, when the fight set's done, I'll walk off and then on my way away, I'll think about things and then I'll just be like, you know what? No, I'm going to stand my ground now. And I think that's what I hold on to, especially in that COVID time. I was like just holding on, thinking, do I quit? Don't I quit? Do I quit? Don't I quit? And then I just dug my heels in and was like, no, you know what? I'm not doing this. So yeah.
That determination, I think, is something that I think a lot of therapists have. That it's like grit. That's like, I don't care how hard it is. I don't care what anyone throws at me. I am here because I love it. Not everybody experiences that. However, I think that when we can hold on to that, just to know that I don't care what's going to happen, I am here and I have had the option to leave and I'm staying in here, I'm sticking it out. And it kind of, it's almost like, it's almost like hands on hips, 5-year-old. No, I'm not.
Exactly.
I'm digging my heels in and I'm making this happen for the powers of good.
Yes. I remember back then I had applied for a cleaning job at one of the mines in town, just so we had some extra money coming in, because my husband wasn't officially a miner. He's a diesel fitter, but he works all over the place. He doesn't just do mining. So we were relying on my income. And I think then too, Queensland has got JobKeeper, but my JobKeeper that I was eligible for had to pay my commercial lease and had to pay my receptionist. So I think it was $3,000 had to go to my family, as well as still all of my business expenses. So it didn't go far at all. So I applied for another job, and the day before I was meant to start, I rang and said, sorry, I think Joel, my husband, had said to me, what are you doing? Is this what you really want to do? And I was like, well, no, but we need the money coming in. He's like, focus on what you actually want to do. This is your time to focus. So I was like, okay. And then I think that might have been when I reached out to you
and said, what can we do?
Yeah. Yeah.
How powerful is it? And not everybody experiences this, but how powerful is it to have somebody in our corner that kind of sees us and says, you know what, I don't think this will make your heart sing. Not exactly the words that he chose, but like just to be able to see you going, you know what, we're gonna get through this anyway. And obviously he has the same trust that you do, that everything's going to be okay. Even if you're not clear on how you're going to do that. And I think that is it's a beautiful thing that we don't get to see a lot in society, is partners, it can be so easy in a relationship to get caught in their own stuff. And when we see relationships where people aren't getting caught in their own stuff, it's a beautiful thing. And it usually comes from an enormous amount of work. It doesn't just magically, it's not a Princess Disney movie. It is 100% stuff that you work on, and you don't always get it right to a point where you guys can actually learn, oh, this is actually what they need. This is normal for them, and kind of get each other. I think that's a really beautiful thing to be able to observe as well.
Absolutely. And you're right. It didn't come from a beautiful place. Like, he had never seen me in that state in our entire relationship. We've just celebrated 14 years of marriage.
Congrats.
So yeah, thanks. He was quite concerned, and I don't think he's ever seen, because he'd never seen me quit anything. He couldn't believe that I was just going to go cleaning just to make some money, and he didn't think that I would last very long anyway, because I'd get bored. But being vulnerable, like all of that just came from the initiation of allowing myself to be vulnerable, which was new to me. So yeah.
So on the other side of that, who did you get to become as a result of all of this incredible vulnerability path breakdown to breakthrough? What has been the other side of this for you in terms of how you've decided to help therapists?
Yeah. So, well, first and foremost, present for my children was really big. That was one of the biggest learnings from my COVID time. I loved being with the kids when I can and getting them to places that they need to get to. So that was always in the back of my mind in regards to future business plans and where I wanted to go to. Who did I get to become? Well, I wouldn't say that I still have any authority in the matter, but I am in a position now where I really can advocate for rural and remote massage therapists, not just in Queensland, but all over Australia, because we really are an unheard cohort. So that's probably my focus now, mentoring rural and remote massage therapists as much as I can, as well as advocating for them at a high level.
Can you share what that high level is?
Yes. So I'm the Queensland Director of Massage and Myotherapy Australia. And I've come to realise that I'm the only one that's not from the metro area, which gives me a unique perspective, I suppose.
Yeah. And like having therapists that get it at that level, at board level, and that's an elected board level too, is so important, because they are our representatives that move this industry forward or across or sideways or backwards, etc. Well, I don't think we've ever seen it go backwards, which is good. However, I think sometimes you've got to be the change you want to see in the world. You've only got to read any Facebook group and people can crucify any association for anything.
Yeah.
And I think when you have the courage to step up and go, bring it on. You know what? Yes. Why shouldn't it be me? I'm going to step up and actually give this a crack through a lens of vulnerability. how incredible to have somebody who has that lens on the board of our association, which is what I'm part of as well, like actually have that lens to bring that and to be able to help to govern our association into the future generations. It's a gift for you and for them and for us as practitioners as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about it. It took a good 12 months. So this is the second year. I've only been to one face-to-face meeting thanks to COVID. So learning slowly, but it also gave me more time to sink my head into the governance side of things. But I'm starting to get traction now and the confidence on the board to initiate change, which is coming.
Oh, exactly. It always takes time. Speaking of governance, like, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because this is something I've heard of, but I didn't know as a member. What does that mean? What does understanding governance mean at the board level?
So understanding governance, well, as soon as you become a director, you're expected to take part in a Cert 4 in governance, which will be superseded by something else, I think, later on this year. But I got through mine within the first 12 months. I think from this moment forward, people will be going through the Australian Institute of Company Directors, and they do a 5-day or a 3-day course that you can go and attend. You have to do that being a director of the association, where you learn about legislation, workplace health and safety, your liabilities as a director, what is good governance, strategic planning, that sort of stuff.
And I think that this stuff's actually really important, because I don't think as a member I would know that each of our elected members have that level of training and that level of understanding and wisdom and knowledge. And I think it's really good to know. I think it's great. It's best practice stuff that means that it just takes everything to the next level. Like it keeps everything really professional and fabulous when you've got such a large member base, and I'm assuming a large finance to be governing as well. It's really important that we have people that are trained and skilled in areas that are other than hands-on work, and to be able to blend those beautifully to still take, how can we advocate for rural therapists? How can we take a lens of vulnerability? How can we take governance, bring all that together, and then share our voice at board level? Like, whoo, that's a big job, Stace.
It is, and I'm loving it at the moment, and I'm loving the board we've got at the moment. It's great. We all have our unique perspective of things, and now no one is afraid to disagree or agree. So it's an interesting board meeting when it comes up, but we work really well together. So I think that will show in results over the next few years.
Yeah, definitely. And look, the fish swims from the head down. And the fact that if our board is if there's unity, not necessarily that everyone's the same, but if there is cohesion there, it can't not flow down to the rest of the organization, which is absolutely phenomenal. So massive well done. In terms of, like, I guess, what do you think is the greatest impact you've had on the world because of your COVID breaking down to breakthrough?
Oh, biggest impact on the world, Alicia.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Probably being able to bring my children up. That would be for the future, being there for them and allowing them their space as well. Because before, I guess, like, I want Eva to see me prosper as a working mother, but I also want to be there for her, and I don't want my children to ever feel like my work is more important than them, because it's not. And if they needed me, I'll drop everything. The last board meeting I had to, because Eli had COVID the day before I was due to leave. Hurt my heart, but I still stayed. So I'm hoping that they will be the biggest impact on the world eventually. I want to change things for Australian massage therapists. The world I haven't ever really thought about, if I'm honest. So Australian massage therapists, I want to change things for those. Yeah. And I'm sure most massage therapists want the industry to change so that we're seen in a different light, more of a health service rather than anything else. Yeah.
which obviously will then impact the world. If we think of ripples, when we throw a rock
Yeah.
into a pool and how that ripples out, it is the impact that it makes on the world. Your beautiful kids, the beautiful lens that you see life now, and how you share that with them and be with them, and then also be able to take that and share that with other practitioners at a board level, and quite practically one-on-one with them as well through the coaching and the courses that you run, is so incredibly beautiful. And I think we need more of this in our industry, and I can't wait to see where this goes.
Thanks, Alicia. That's good. Thank you very much.